Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams. Today we're going to be going over the Week 9 game previews. And just a heads up, we have a couple of teams that are going to be out this week. Eagles, Bengals, Rams, and the Browns. They're all going to be out this week, so if you have any of those players, take them out of your lineup. So without further ado, let's get it started. In this first matchup, we have the Falcons versus the Broncos. We're going to start with the Falcons because they're the home team. Matt Ryan, I think, is a fine start this week. Denver's not scaring me, and I think that while Julio Jones plays, you can play Matt Ryan. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Unfortunately, Calvin Ridley is dinged up. Julio Jones is going to play. If Calvin really doesn't play, I think that there's just going to be more Julio, and Russell Gage may be involved in that matchup. Next, we have the running back position. Todd Gurley, I think that you can play him. I have him as a running back too. Denver is good against the running back, but Todd Gurley is probably going to fall into the end zone, so I think you can start him. Next, we have the tight end position. Hayden Hurst is a solid start, especially if Calvin Ridley is out. Also, I think that with Julio Jones back, Hayden Hurst has been playing better. Next, we have the defense. I don't think you have to play them against the Broncos, but I think worst coming to worst, you could. Next, we have the kicker. Absolutely start him, fire him up. He's a beast. Next, we have the Denver Broncos. Though I'm not starting Drew Lock, this is a fantastic game for Drew Lock, so I think that he is playable, but I'm not playing him, and I'm not recommending you play him, but they are terrible against the quarterback, so you're saying there's a chance. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Tim Patrick's dinged up right now. I'm not quite sure if he's going to play. Regardless, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be a solid play this week. Atlanta is terrible against the wide receiver, and Jerry Jeudy's last man standing. I hope Tim Patrick plays because I actually like the talent of Tim Patrick. He's been pretty good. Next, we have the running back position. This is where it gets a little dicey. Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. I think that they're both startable in this matchup. Phillip Lindsay's looked pretty good, and he's starting to eat into Melvin Gordon's role, but I do think Melvin Gordon is still a viable start. Obviously, he's going to be getting the majority of the touches, but he's less valuable with Phillip Lindsay healthy. Next, we have the tight end position. Noah Fant, fire him up. Atlanta's terrible against the tight end. They're also terrible against wide receivers. Next, we have the defense. I'm not trying to play the defense in this matchup. I still think that Julio Jones can get it done, and so can Atlanta. Next, we have the kicker, and I don't think you have to start him. All right, time to pick this game. It's a 3.5-point spread, and I'm going Atlanta. I think that Atlanta can win this game. They're looking better, especially since they fired their head coach. And with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones there and a possible Calvin Ridley, I think they should get it done. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. In this matchup, we have the Seahawks versus the Bills. And we're going to start with the Bills because they're the home team. Josh Allen has not been playing great recently, but he's also been playing in some inclement weather. I do think this is a turnaround game. I think he has a nice game in this one. Fire him up. The Seattle Seahawks are not good against the wide receivers, so fire up Stephon Diggs. And I think that if you need a flyer, I think Cole Beasley and John Brown can play, assuming that John Brown is healthy. If both of them play, they're going to kind of eat into each other's work, but I do think that if John Brown's out, Cole Beasley will be a fine play. Next, we have the running back position. I'm really meh on both of these. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, I think, are flex plays this week. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Defense, no. Kicker, no. Moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson. Of course you're playing him. He is an absolute beast. You play him every week. Next, same with the wide receivers. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They're absolute starts every single week. Next, running back position. This is where it gets interesting. Chris Carson is dinged up at the moment, and he's going to be out. So is Carlos Hyde. So now it's up to Travis Homer and DJ Dallas. Now, here's the thing about DJ Dallas. Homer was out last game. I'm not quite sure if they're going to be sharing the load. I do think that they both get some work in this game, and if you have to start somebody, I think that it's Dallas. I think he's a flex play this week against the Bills. The Bills don't scare me, but I would have much preferred to have Carlos Hyde or obviously Chris Carson because he's an absolute beast. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Defense, no. Kicker, no thank you. So it's time to pick this game. The spread is 2.5 points for Seattle. I'm taking that. You kidding me? 2.5? You don't think they're going to win by a field goal? Psh, they barely beat the Jets the other day. Crazy people. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Bears versus the Titans, and the Titans are the home team, so we're going to start with them. Starting at the top, Ryan Tannehill. I think that you can start him in this game. Not a great matchup against the Bears, but I do think he's startable. He can get it done with his legs, and he'll probably throw a nice touchdown to A.J. Brown deep. Next, we'll have the wide receiver position. A.J. Brown did miss practice this week, but I do believe that this is just a rest day. He should be fine. If he plays, you play him. This is not a great matchup. The Bears are very good against the wide receiver position, but I do think that you start A.J. Brown. A lot of people out there are going to be trying to start Corey Davis. I do think you can start him, but limit your expectations because the Bears are very good against the wide receiver position. Next, we have the running back position. Obviously, you're starting Derrick Henry. He's an absolute beast. Next, we have the tight ends. Jonnu Smith. I think that he's playable. He has come down a little bit from the beginning of the year when he was an absolute beast, but it is the tight end landscape, and he has a chance to fall into the end zone. Next, we have the defense. I think the defense can be played against the Bears because the Bears' offense is probably their weakest part of the team. The defense is definitely carrying them. Next, we have the kicker, and I think you can play the kicker. All right, moving on to the Bears. Bears. Shout out Felix and Joe. Starting at the top, we're not starting any of the quarterbacks. Let's not even act like we're talking about them. Wide receiver position, the only one I'm thinking about starting is Allen Robinson. Next, we have the running back position. David Montgomery may not be great, but he's going to get the work. As long as you're getting the work, you're startable. In fantasy football, talent and opportunity is what Matthew Berry always says, and I actually do agree with him on this one. David Montgomery is not a terrible running back, but he is not playing great. And his opportunity is still really high, so you play him. That's what I'm talking about. Talent and opportunity. My man's got the opportunity. Play him. Next, we have the tight end position. Jimmy Graham. I think that you can play him in this matchup. Jimmy Graham always has the chance to get a touchdown. They look for him in the red zone, and that's what you need from your tight ends. He may get you 3 for 40, but if he gets you a touchdown, he'll be fine. Up next, we have the defense. I'm not trying to start the defense, but I think you can start the Bears defense. I think that they're outside the top 12, but they could always make a play. They do have a solid defense, and they may get a pick or two. All right, and the kicker, no thank you. All right, time to pick this game. It's a 5.5 point spread for the Titans, and I do like the Titans to win this game, but I think the Bears keep it close. All right, that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Lions versus the Vikings, and the Vikings are at home, so we're going to start off with them. Kirk Cousins. I actually think that Kirk Cousins is a solid start in this game. I don't have him top 12, but I do think that he is a viable start if you need a streamer. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are both very good plays in this matchup. The Lions don't scare me, and they've both been playing pretty well. I think you can fire both of them up. Next, you're playing Dalvin Cook because he's an absolute monster, and the Lions suck against the running back position. 30th in the league against the running back. Dalvin Cook is going to run all over them. Next, we have the tight end position, Irv Smith Jr. I think you can fire him up if you need a tight end. Next, we have the defense. No. Kicker. No, thank you. Hard pass. All right, moving on to the Lions. Matthew Stafford does not have COVID, but he was close to someone else with COVID. If you test negative 6 days in a row, you can play in that next game. The 6th day is going to be Sunday. So he's testing negative as of now. If he keeps testing negative up until game day, he'll play. And if he plays, I think that you can play him because I think that they'll need to throw to keep up in this game. Next, I have the wide receiver position. Kenny Golladay is unfortunately going to be out. Marvin Jones moves up. I think that Marvin Jones is playable, but I don't want you to get crazy excited because Kenny Golladay was out earlier this year and Marvin Jones didn't take advantage of it. But I do think that Marvin Jones could be a solid play this week if you need a flyer. Next, we have the running back position. The only one that I would play is DeAndre Swift. I'm not trying to play Adrian Peterson in this one. I think that Detroit's going to need to be coming back and AP does not catch balls. Next, we have the tight end position. DJ Hawkinson, I think he's going to be a fine play this week against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are middle of the pack against the tight end, and with Kenny Golladay out, I think that TJ Hawkinson gets more looks in the red zone. And I'm not starting their defense, but you can start the kicker. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Time to pick this game. 3.5 point spread. If I knew that Matthew Stafford was playing and he had Kenny Golladay, this would be a lot more difficult. But I got to go with the Vikings on this one. Dalvin Cook, run all over him. 3.5, I'm a little meh about, but I do think that the Vikings can get it done. They did just beat Green Bay. Last week, Dalvin Cook was outrageous. Oh my gosh. If you were facing Dalvin Cook last week, it was bad. It was really, really bad for you. I'm sorry for your loss. 4 touchdowns. The first player to do it in 4 consecutive drives to start off the game. That's unheard of, obviously. It's never happened. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to start with the Colts because they're the home team. Starting off at the top, you're not starting Phillip Rivers, so keep it moving. Wide receivers, no thank you. T.Y. Hilton is banged up, and I'm not trying to start any of the other ones. The Baltimore Ravens are absolutely fantastic defense. Running back, you're going to start Jonathan Taylor begrudgingly. He was a little dinged up last week, but I do think that he gets the touches in this one. Jordan Wilkins was alright last week, but here's the thing. So was Nyheim Hines, and I don't think that all 3 of them are going to get involved. The Baltimore Ravens are absolutely fantastic against the run. They're number 1 in the league against the run, and I think that this is going to be a tough game, but Jonathan Taylor is going to be the guy as long as he's healthy. Next, we have the tight end position. No thank you. Defense, no. Actually, you can play the defense in this matchup. I'm not super excited about it, but the defense has been really good this year, so I do think you can play them. They're not my favorite, but I do think you can play them. Next, kicker. I guess so. They may have to kick a decent amount if they can get down there, but not the best matchup. Next, we have the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has not been great this year. He's trying to stick in the pocket more and pass the ball, and I respect that, but for fantasy, he's just not getting it done. That being said, he is getting it done enough to be in your lineup, so I think that you can fire him up, even though this is not a good matchup with the Colts having a nice defense. Next, we have the wide receiver position. My gosh. Marquise Brown is a flex play at best for me. He always is going to have upside, but so does everybody like Mecole Hardman or Deshaun Jackson when he plays. They're going to have upside. They can have a big play. You feeling lucky? Well, do ya, punk? So if you do feel lucky, start him up. Next, we have the running back position. I believe Mark Ingram's going to be out in this matchup. So J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, I think, are both plays in this matchup as flex plays. If I had to pick one, I'm choosing J.K. Dobbins because he gets involved in the passing game. But I think they're both viable flex plays in this game. Next, we have the tight end position. You're going to start Mark Andrews, but know this. The Colts are one of the best teams in the league against the tight end position. I believe they're number 1. So, Mark Andrews, you're going to play him, but just know, temper your expectations. Next, Baltimore's defense, you fire him up. The kicker, you fire him up. All right. The matchup is 2.5 point spread Baltimore's way, and I'm taking the Ravens. Yes, I know they haven't been playing well this year. Yes, I know they just lost against the Steelers, but I think they can take out the Colts. You know what I'm saying? It's not that bad. If you drafted Lamar Jackson in the 2nd or 3rd round, you have got to be upset right now. We're in week 9. Yes, they had their bye, but only 3 top 10 performances? You were expecting some Patrick Mahomes type of points. Or last year, Lamar Jackson kind of points, and you're just not getting that this year. Hopefully, he starts using his legs a little more, but we'll see. All right, that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Carolina Panthers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're going to start with those Chiefs because they're the home team. Starting at the top, you know you're starting in this matchup. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a start as well as a running back too. And I think Le'Veon Bell is a flex play. And the reason I say that, Carolina's terrible against the running back position. They're bottom 2 in the league. Yes, one of the worst teams in the league against the running back. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell don't get it done this time, it's going to be very, very telling. I think that you can play their defense, and I think that you can play their kicker. That's pretty much all the important skill positions for the Kansas City Chiefs. Fire them up. Next, we have the Carolina Panthers. Starting at the top, no thank you to Teddy Bridgewater. He got dinged up last game and he didn't look great. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Kansas City's actually really good against the wide receiver. They're 6th best in the league against the wide receiver. I do still think that you can start Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, but temper your expectations. I don't see a big game unless they hit some big plays coming back from behind, because they will be down. Next, what you've all been waiting for. Christian McCaffrey is back! Yes! Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I have been waiting for Christian McCaffrey to come back for so long. Oh, I don't know about you, but I have him in one of my leagues, and I have just been biding my time. Luckily, I'm 4-4, but it could have been worse. All right, so I think Christian McCaffrey, you fire him up. I think he's going to be great this week. Don't play Mike Davis, but also don't drop Mike Davis. He's one of the best handcuffs in the league. I definitely think you hold on to him. Next, we have the tight end position. Nope. Kicker, nope. Defense, nope. All right, so now it's time to pick this game. 10.5-point spread. You know where I'm going with this. Kansas City Chiefs, baby. Yo, we picking them until they get knocked off. They're covering spreads. I like the Kansas City Chiefs to win this one, and I'm not thinking it's going to be particularly close. I mean, you got to give Mike Davis his credit, man. He did work while Christian McCaffrey was out. And even if he gets pushed to a backseat role, your fantasy roster is much better with him on it. He did very, very well, and he saved some of your seasons. So I appreciate you, Mike Davis. You did work while Christian McCaffrey's out now. Please don't take too many carries away from him now that he is back. All right. I don't think that he'll take a lot from him. I do think that he'll be more involved in the offense than he was prior to him taking over, but I think that Christian McCaffrey just got paid $60+ million, and they're going to use him. All right. That's going to be it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Washington football team versus the New York Giants. And Washington's the home team, so we're going to start with them. Quarterback, no thank you. Wide receiver, Terry McLaurin is obviously a fire start. You're starting him every week. I think that Antonio Gibson is going to be a great play this week. Fire him up for sure. Also, J.D. McKissick is also a solid play in this game. I think he's going to be a flex play with upside. He's going to catch some balls. Next, we have the tight end position. Logan Thomas is a flyer, but if you're desperate, you can fire him up too. Defense, I'm definitely playing the defense against the Giants. Daniel Jones turns it over like crazy, and they scored a lot of points last time they played against them. So fire up Washington's defense. And the kicker, no thank you. Moving on to the Giants. You're not starting Daniel Jones. You're not starting Devontae Freeman because he's out. Even if he did play, it would be a terrible matchup. Wayne Gallman is going to be the starter, and I think that you can start him as a flex play, but it's a terrible matchup. Washington's front line is amazing, so don't have high hopes if you start Wayne Gallman. Pray that he falls into the end zone. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Sterling Shepard and Slayton, I think, are low-end flex plays. And, I'm going to throw Golden Tate in there, too. I'm not excited to play any of them, though. This is not a good matchup. Washington is the best team in the league against the wide receiver position. Yes, that's what I said. They are the best in the league. So I'm not playing them if I don't have to. That being said, I do think that Sterling Shepard should be on benches. Moving on, tight end position, Evan Ingram. I think you fire him up in this matchup. They've been trying to get him the ball, and I think he'll be a low-end flex play, or I think he'll be a low-end tight end one. Next, we have the defense. I think that you can play them because the Giants aren't great either. So I think that they both should be fine. Finally is the kicker. No, thank you. All right, I had to pick this game. It's a 3.5 point spread for Washington's football team. That's a bigger spread than I had expected. I'm taking the Giants. Now, if the Giants were favored, I definitely wouldn't be taking the Giants. But you're giving me 3 points in an in-division game with two bad teams? Yeah, I'm going to take that. All right, that's going to do it. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Jaguars versus the Texans, and we're going to start with the Jaguars because they're the home team. I don't know if you saw this, but Gardner Minshew is out in this game, and they have a backup that I honestly don't even know. He's a rookie, and I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. But I do know that he's tall, and he can sling it apparently, because the coach was saying that he's got an arm. So They didn't put out a paraplegic. Doom. Yeah, I know. Jokes aren't always funny. After the quarterback position, we have the wide receiver position. The only one I'm really okay with starting is DJ Chark, and he's more of a low-end wide receiver 2. If you're desperate, Laviska Shenault could be a flex play. Next, James Robinson has been amazing all year. I still think you fire him up. He's going to get the volume, and you never know if he's able to break one, so fire up James Robinson. Also, the Texans defense is not very good, so I think that he should be fine. Next, we have the tight end, no. Defense, no. Kicker, no. All right, moving on to the Texans. Deshaun Watson is a fire play this week. Fire him up. He's going to be great. Interdivision, they have a losing record. He's not trying to keep it that way. He's trying to make a statement, so fire him up. Next, obviously, I think you can fire up the wide receivers as well. Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller will be fine plays in this game. I think you can play both of them. If you're desperate, Randall Cobb might also get some action in there. Next, we have the running back position. Fire up David Johnson. I think that he's going to have a fine game this week. Jacksonville doesn't scare me, and I think that he gets going. He's been a top 12 player the last 2 weeks, and I think that continues this week. Fire him up. I'm not going to play their tight end, but you can play their defense and their kicker. Time to pick this game. It's a 6.5 point spread. I'm kind of surprised. I wish that it was closer. But I do think Deshaun probably going to end the game with a nice bomb pass to Will Fuller that locks it in there for winning by over 7 or more points. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. Up next, we have the Raiders versus the Chargers. We're going to start with the Chargers because they're the home team. Justin Herbert has been playing out of his mind. Fire him up. Next, we got the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen, easy start. Mike Williams, downfield threat, and I think that he could be pretty solid in this one. I have him as a flex play with upside. Next, we have the running back position. Justin Jackson is the guy you want in this backfield. I think you definitely fire him up this week. He is a running back 2. He's getting the volume, and he's looking good going against Oakland. Fire him up. Next, we have the tight end. You can start Hunter Henry for sure. One of the better tight ends in the league, at least statistically. Next, we have the defense. No, thank you. Kicker, no. Next, moving on to Oakland. Sorry, not Oakland. Las Vegas Raiders. All right, so Derek Carr, I think you can fire him up. I actually think that he can have a solid game. This should be a nice back and forth kind of game. And I think that Derek Carr will be a solid start this week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I like Henry Ruggs and I like Nelson Aguilar, but I don't love them for this matchup. That being said, if you had to pick a flyer, I think the Ruggs can always hit a downfield threat, but I also feel the same way about Nelson Aguilar. So if you need a flyer, I think one of these guys could possibly get one of those. Next, we have the running back position. Josh Jacobs is dinged up at the moment. I think that he should play. I believe he was a full participant in today's practice, but he is dealing with an illness and a slight injury, so monitor that on Sunday. Make sure that he's going to be in the game, and if he's in the game, fire him up. He's going to be a beast. Next, we have the tight end position. Darren Waller is a monster. Fire him up every week. Next, defense, no thank you. Kicker, no. Actually, yes, you can play the kicker. All right, that's going to do it for this matchup. The spread is 1.5 for the Chargers, basically a pick 'em. I'm going to go with the Oakland Raiders. Sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Up next, we have the Cowboys versus the Steelers, and we're going to start with the Cowboys because they're the home team. The Cowboys, man, do not look good. Dak Prescott, I know he got injured, but man, he is looking better and better by the week. The things that he was able to do with this team, and now look at what's happening without him. Oh, I'm not saying it's only on Dak being gone by any means. They have had a lot of injuries as well, especially to that offensive line. But Dak is still going to get paid when he gets back, for sure. All right, moving on to this matchup. You're not starting a quarterback because you don't know much about him. And also, I don't think that this is a good matchup. The Steelers are great across the board on defense. So you're not playing the quarterback. I avoid playing all the wide receivers if you can. I know that some of you feel like you have to play Amari Cooper, but you surely shouldn't be playing CeeDee Lamb. You definitely shouldn't even be having Michael Gallup at this point. And Amari Cooper, I'm trying to find ways to get him out of the lineup if you have him, for sure. Next, we have the running back position, and unfortunately, you got to play Zeke. He's getting the touches. He's going to get the touches. So he's also dinged up a little bit. And the problem with that is the way that people have been able to run on the Steelers isn't by 10 yards here, 10 yards there. It's the big, long play, bust it up through the middle, and you take it to the house kind of sort of thing. That's how people have been able to do it, but he has not been looking... I mean, the offensive line is terrible. It's just bad all around. So if you got to bench him, I couldn't imagine benching Ezekiel Elliott, but I mean, desperate times, I guess. Anyways, he's going to get the volume. Next, we have the tight end position. No. Defense, no. Kicker, no. All right, moving on to the Steelers. I think Big Ben's a great play in this matchup. They're going to be dominating the Cowboys at home. Oh, it's going to be so embarrassing. Next, they have the wide receiver position. I think you can fire up all three. Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, and Claypool. I think they're all fine plays in this matchup. Dallas really sucks. Next, moving on to the running back position, James Conner is going to be eating. Nom, nom, nom. I know that's normally Zeke's move, but James Conner may bust it out just to be an extra troll. Anyways, next, we have the tight end position. I think you can fire up Eric Ebron. I told you to pick him up this week, and I didn't tell you to pick him up for no reason. Play him. Next, you have the defense. Absolutely outrageously amazing. Number one defense on the week for sure. Give me a pick 6 and 4 sacks and a fumble. Next, we're talking about the kicker, and I think you fire him up too. All right, so the spread on this one is 10.5 for the Steelers, and I'm taking that. They're going to dominate Dallas this week. In this matchup, the Dolphins versus the Cardinals. We're going to start with the Cardinals because they're their home team. Kyler Murray is an absolute beast. You fire him up every week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Obviously, you're starting DeAndre Hopkins, and if you need a flex play, you can start Christian Kirk. Next, we have the running back position. Kenyon Drake is going to be out in this matchup, so fire up Chase Edmonds. He's going to be absolutely amazing for sure. Don't forget to get him in your lineup. Find a way to get him in your lineup. He's going to be great. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Kicker, no. Defense, yes. Next, moving on to Miami. Unfortunately, Ryan Fitzpatrick is no longer the starter. It is Tua Tagovailoa. I'm probably saying that wrong, but Tua is definitely right. You're not starting Tua at all, for sure. He didn't show enough in last week's game to be a viable starter. The defense did work. Can't really blame him for that. Next, we have the wide receiver. I think that you can start Devontae Parker as a flex play. I'm not super excited about it, mainly because I didn't see much from Tua last week, and on top of that, Patrick Peterson could be shadowing him. That would not be a good look. Next, we have the running back position. Myles Gaskin's out, and Matt Breida is going to be out. So, Jordan Howard, I think that he has a chance to fall into the end zone. I think you fire him up if you need a flyer at the running back position. Next, we have the tight end. Mike Gesicki, I think that he's a borderline start if you really need somebody, but I'm not like, ooh, got to play Mike Gesicki this week. Next, we have the defense. No, thank you. Kicker, no, thank you. All right, time to pick this game. 4.5 point spread for the Cardinals, and I'm going to take those Cardinals. 4.5 points is not too bad. I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. This next matchup is going to be awesome. I'm so excited, and I'm hoping that the Saints come in at full strength so that we can knock them down for that loss we took earlier this year. If you haven't noticed, this game is going to be the Bucks versus the Saints. So, we're going to start with the Bucks because they're the home team. Starting at the top, Tom Brady. I am so excited to see Tom Brady with Antonio Brown again in Tampa Bay. Yes. Tom Brady's going to be great. I think Antonio Brown's going to be fine. I'll get to him in a minute. Fire up Tom Brady, though, for sure. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Mike Evans. I think that you can fire him up this week. That being said, he has had some trouble against the Saints, specifically Marshawn Lattimore. Him and Marshawn Lattimore do a lot of barking back and forth to each other, and they have some bad blood there, for sure. They do not like each other. That being said, Mike Evans has not been producing great while Marshawn Lattimore's on him. That a lot of it is because I think there's a lot of pass interference yards that they're getting, but he's not getting the reception because he's being interfered with every time he tries to catch the ball. So I'm not excited about Mike Evans, but I do think that you can play him. I have him as a high-end flex play this week. That being said, Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin are playing in this game, I believe. Chris Godwin is dinged up. Now, he has a hand issue. He was wearing a cast, but he was catching today in practice. So I think that he's going to play. And if he plays, I think he can play for you. And Antonio Brown. I was listening to something that Matthew Berry said today, and I completely agree. Either you believe or you don't. If you believe that Antonio Brown is going to still have it and he's going to be playing well, then fire him up. And if you don't, and you have some trepidation about that, leave him on your bench. He loves to perfect his game. He is not going to let himself come back and be out of shape. He is going to be running the right routes. I'm sure he's studied the playbook. I'm sure he's talked to Tom about different things that he likes to do. Antonio Brown is going to be great for this offense. I am unbelievably excited to see him in a Bucs uniform. This is going to be awesome! Woo! Heck yeah, I can't wait for this game. It's going to be fantastic. Ugh. And we lost to them earlier this season, and everybody's like, "Oh, look at Tom, looking kind of bad." Where the Patriots at? 2-5. Where the Bucs? 6-2. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't actually want the Patriots to play poorly, but think twice before you talk about Tom Brady. The GOAT is in Tampa Bay now. I got your back, Tom. I got you, bro. I got you. All right. Anyways, back to this matchup. So we are going to continue off of the wide receivers because I'm starting all three if they're healthy and they play. Up next, we have the running back position. I think that you can play both of these running backs, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones this week. Leonard Fournette seems to be more involved in the passing game because Ronald Jones is not catching as well as he should be. That being said, I think that they're both playable. I have them both as high upside flex plays. Next, we have the tight end position. Fire up some Rob Gronkowski. I think that he's going to be fine this week. Actually, I think he's going to be more than fine. I think he's going to be great. He's going to be involved in the end zone because that's just how it is now. I'm about it. Gronk, get it, boy. All right, next we have the Bucs defense. I think you can fire them up against the Saints. I think that should be a fine play. That being said, the Saints are still good, but they're all dinged up. Alvin Kamara's gonna play, but he stubbed his toe, I think. Michael Thomas coming off of a hamstring injury and all these other injuries and issues, trials and tribulations. Also, last time he played us, got like a vault, baby, locked down. And I think that the Bucs should have a solid game defensively. Moving on to the kicker. You can start our kicker. Next, we have the Saints. Starting at the top, Drew Brees. I'm really iffy on whether or not I want to start Drew Brees. He's currently questionable with a shoulder injury. He's had shoulder issues his whole career, so I think they're just monitoring it, but not super excited about it. That being said, the last 3 games that Drew Brees has played, he has been top 10. Now, not top 5, not top 3, but he has been top 10 the last 3 games. It has not been pretty. It hasn't been. But I mean, he's still getting it done a little bit. So I think that the Bucs defense is really good, but the Saints are going to have to try to keep up. So I think that he might have to throw it more than he expects, and I think that there's worse quarterbacks out there. I'm not saying you should start him, but I'm saying there's worse quarterbacks to start than Drew Brees. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Michael Thomas, let's go. Are you actually going to be healthy enough to play this week? Finally. I think that you fire up Michael Thomas if he's healthy for sure. Next, we have Emmanuel Sanders. I'm not sure if Emmanuel Sanders is going to play due to his situation with COVID, but if he plays, I still don't think this is a great matchup. Next, we have the running back position. Fire up Alvin Kamara. Leave Latavius Murray on your bench. Alvin Kamara is a start every week, no matter the matchup. Next, we have the tight end position. Fire up Jared Cook. I think he should have a fine game this week. Next, we have the defense. No, thank you. Kicker, you can start Will Lutz because he's an absolute monster. All right, the spread in this game is 4.5 points, and give me those Buccaneers, baby. Let's go. Revenge from the first game of the season. That's what I'm talking about. I feel bad for everybody that drafted Michael Thomas in the first or second round. It's been a rough go at it. Just in and out of lineups. Then he got suspended that one game for the fight. It's like, come on, man. You're killing me. You've already been out for weeks. But that's football for you. I'm actually really excited about this game. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Patriots versus the Jets, and the Jets are the home team, so we're going to start with them. This is actually going to be probably the quickest game we have. Jamison Crowder doesn't start in this game. I'm not playing a single Jet in this game. Moving on to the Patriots, there's only two that I'm thinking about. Maybe three. Cam Newton, if you're desperate, I think he'll get some running on the ground, and he can't not be throwing touchdowns forever. Next, we have Damian Harris. I think that he could be a solid start. I think that they could run the ball, but, if they get close to the end zone, it's going to be Cam Newton time. Next, we have the Patriots defense because they're going against the Jets, and the Jets suck. This is a 7.5-point spread. Yikes, that's a big one, and with the Patriots not playing well, I should probably take the Jets, but I ain't taking the Jets. Cam, get it done, baby. Let's go. You used to be an MVP, bro. I think that you still got it in you. You're going to have a nice turnaround to the season, and it starts against the Jets. If you don't have a get-right game against the Jets, then that's a problem. Man, Patriots, they used to dominate this division every year. Win after win after win. 10-plus wins multiple years in a row. Not this year, unfortunately. Every great thing comes to an end, right? And they can still turn it around. They can still turn it. I'm not counting out the Patriots. I still think they can turn it around and have a much better year than they are right now. They can have a positive spot looking into the future. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. And this is going to wrap up or conclude the game previews. So let me know what you think. What games am I right on? What am I wrong on? What players would you be starting? What players would you be sitting? Let me know if you have any questions. And good luck in this week, everybody. And don't forget to check to see who was dropped. You might be able to find a gem out there. All right, that's going to do it. Peace, Bay Nation.